Okay, thanks ever so much to the British Art Network for inviting me along here. Jerry and I would have loved to have done a double act, but Jerry unfortunately was unavailable today. So, um, talking maps in the exhibition is sort of still with us in spirit, but we've moved on from that. And as you'll see, the title of this talk is Maps as Art, and I've expanded it a little. So, centuries of reimagining the British landscape. Now, this is such a broad subject, and I've spent a long time thinking what we're going to include in this because there is so much to choose from. And as Emma mentioned, I've decided to narrow it down to just four maps. So we'll use four maps to guide us through this centuries of imagining the British landscape. Four very different artistic approaches that we're going to go for. So there'll be a Tudor tapestry, something I've called Regency realism, and then we'll move into the 21st century with a bit of collage and also some watercolors. So there's hopefully a bit of something for everybody. But first of all, I'd just like to start with a broad definition. What is landscape? Now, if we use the noun, it's a picture representing natural inland scenery as distinguished from a sea picture, a portrait, etc. Or if we go for a verb, to represent as a landscape, to picture, or to depict. So we need to bear these in mind when we start looking at our four maps. So without further ado, we're going to begin with a tapestry. And the map I've chosen is the Sheldon Tapestry map of Worcestershire, which dates from around about 1590. The map maker or artist I've put in square brackets because we're not really sure, somebody by the name of Richard Hicks. We know that Richard Hicks was involved in the production of this tapestry, but we don't really know in what context, probably some sort of a project manager. So what are we talking about? Now, that is the Sheldon Tapestry map of Worcestershire. What you don't get from that image is an idea of the size. It's about 6 meters across and about 4 meters high. So it's big. It's a seriously big thing. Now you can see there's bits missing from it. It's 1590 is a long time ago. Tapestries can get vulnerable. And this has been a recently restored tapestry. You may not think it is looking at it, but it's one of a set of four. And there were tapestries made for Worcestershire, Warwickshire, Gloucestershire, and Oxfordshire, all to be hung at a place called Weston House, which is in South Warwickshire near a village called Long Compton between Chipping Norton and Stratford on Avon. And they were commissioned by a chap called Ralph Sheldon in around about 1590. So what you have to bear in mind is that in 1590, to have a tapestry of a map was pretty much unheard of. Probably still is, actually. But a tapestry of a map, what was the idea behind it? When you think of the cartographic background in 1590, this is the only map in existence which could have inspired the tapestry. I don't know whether you can see the cursor moving around, but this is Christopher Saxton's map of Worcestershire. Saxton was given permission by the Crown to travel the length and breadth of the land to map the counties of England and Wales. And between 1574 and 1579, he produced what is effectively the first national atlas of anywhere in the world. So here we see his map of Worcestershire. I've put in a couple of extra bits. Here's the title, cartouche from the top right. This bit here has just been enlarged, 1577. And I've also taken an extract from the bottom right, down here, the southeast part of the map. You can see centered on Evesham. And what I want you to do is look at how the landscape has been depicted. We have blue rivers, nothing unusual there. These red settlements centered on Evesham. And you can see the Cotswolds, or part of the Cotswolds, these rounded hills, look like big mole hills, don't they? The background colour is representative of different counties. So this buff colour is Worcestershire, the green is Gloucestershire. And you can see down here, there's a detached part of Worcestershire. else, a small part of Worcestershire hanging around elsewhere. Now, given that we're in the zoom era, I decided we'd go for a zoom-like image. So bear with me on this one. These are the 4 tapestries. They're all in different states of repair. You see Worcestershire, Warwickshire, Gloucestershire and Oxfordshire. Imagine what these would have looked like in Weston House, a riot of colour for any visitor. The visitors probably wouldn't have known what a map was, and they'd have looked at this, but they'd have seen this vivid, vibrant landscape. Now, we can try to put these 4 tapestries together, but it just doesn't work. Both Warwickshire and Gloucestershire have east at the top. Worcestershire and Oxfordshire have north at the top, so you can't get them to join. One of the key things, though, is the Weston House, which on the Worcestershire tapestry, which we're focusing on, is around about here. Weston House would have appeared on all 4 tapestries. So Sheldon would have appeared to be at the centre of the world. Everybody walking past, there is Weston House at the centre of the world, and let's see what it looked like. There it is. You can see Weston in the middle here. There it is, a wonderful 3D representation of all the towns and villages in this part of the country. And just to give you, again, a flavour for the landscape, we can see woodland. We can see these rounded hills, all the villages. And we've even got the rollright stones. So anyone who's familiar with the rollright stones, they don't look anything like that, but they're a little stone circle right up on the ridge overlooking Warwickshire and Oxfordshire on the county border, and the different coloured backgrounds, as I've stressed earlier, represent different counties. So this is Warwickshire, the pinks are Worcestershire, a bit of Oxfordshire here, and the greens are Gloucestershire. It's a gorgeous thing to look at, a really fantastic representation of the landscape. So that's my first map. Next up is a plan of the parish of Hawkhurst in Kent. This is an estate map which belongs in the collection of Christ Church in Oxford. And to see this thing in the flesh is a thing of pure joy and beauty. It's a wonderful thing. Made in 1818 by Frederick Young. And I know that David Fletcher is in the audience. David did write a book on Christ Church's maps, and I want to quote from David. He described this as a masterpiece of cartographic art, which also serves as a practical role as a graphic inventory of land use. So let's have a look. This image doesn't do it any justice, but that's the whole map. I want to zoom in so we can see a bit more. First of all, there's the title, Plan of the Parish of Hawkhurst in the County of Kent, 1818. We have a scale bar, all very arty, but let's have a look at the landscape. This is fantastic. This is the top northwest part of the map. You can see the woodland. Look at the detail in those trees. There's sunlight pouring through. We've even got shadow here. You can see the shade of the trees filtering out onto the neighbouring land. We also have fields. Each field is numbered. So this map, this gorgeous work of art, has a practical purpose. The numbers on the fields are essential to the land management of the Hawkhurst estate. So it's a property record commissioned by Christ Church. Let's have a look at a bit more. Just look at those colours. It's a stunning thing. And I think you'll agree that it very much looks like you would expect the landscape to look. Just look at those colours. The only thing is the numbers on it, which you wouldn't see normally. Let's have a look at some more, because I get quite excited about this. We've got some buildings, coloured pink. It's just the vivid colour, this naturalistic style. More of the shadows. We've got some ponds. There's a nice little pond up here, another pond there. I'm going to carry on showing maps because I just love this map. It's as if we were looking at this map in a low-flying aircraft. You can see the landscape. It's exactly what it looks like. These are all orchards, which you see down here. These regularly placed symbols that you see. So again, a very different artistic look at the landscape. So we've looked at a tapestry. We've looked at this manuscript estate map, I'm now going to go on to something completely different, which is a collage. 21st century collage by an artist called Layla Curtis. And this work dates from 2013. It's called The Thames, from London Bridge, Arizona to Sheerness, Canada. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Layla's work. We had one of her maps in our Talking Maps exhibition, which was her title, Newcastle Gateshead, which I think is an absolutely wonderful thing. And Layla came to the exhibition and asked us whether or not the Bodleian should actually acquire the Thames, which is a much bigger work. And we managed to come to an agreement, and we have now acquired the Thames from Layla. So just to describe it, it's collaged maps on 10 boards. The map comes in 10 parts, each measuring 30 by 40. Layla's map. Let's give you a background. This isn't Layla Curtis, this is Ordnance Survey, a very small scale map of the Thames estuary. So look at that, get that in your mind, and then we'll move to Layla's take on it. Bit of a faded image, but I think you can make out. This is London here, and you follow the Thames out to sea, Essex and Kent down there. Or is it? And this is where the fun and games starts. What Layla's concept is that she's created this collage map based on the River Thames, but it's constructed from fragments of maps from around the world that relate to or reference place names in the Thames area. So the maps she's choosing are either topographic maps or nautical charts, and they're joined together to form an approximate shape of the Thames from London to the sea. But none of what you see on that map would you see on the ground in the Thames estuary. Let me explain. This is part one, from London Bridge, Arizona to Salt Island, British Virgin Islands. You can make out the Thames. You see, there's the Isle of Dogs, or is it? It's Dog Islands. It's a nautical chart. You can see Greenwich down here, but it's not Greenwich that we know, not the London Borough of Greenwich. Anyway, that looks like a United States topographic map. And you see the river flowing out there. To zoom in a little more, here's London, and she's focused it on London Bridge, but the London Bridge that was sold to Lake Havasu in Arizona. I don't know whether you remember that, in the 70s, I think it was, and it was rebuilt in the desert. And you can follow Layla's new Thames out here. We've got Cash Corner round about Canary Wharf, Richlands, and then up here you can see there are various place names with Olympic in to reflect the Olympic Games and the site in Stratford. So it's lots and lots of different maps. Layla has done all the research, joined them all together and created a new landscape. We're moving further downstream now. For those of you with sharp eyes, you'll see this is the island of Kalimantan between Malaysia and Indonesia. And there is Sulawesi. And this is the Wallace line dotted through there. Now, the Wallace line represents some huge biological diversity. East and west of that line, things change in terms of fauna and flora enormously. Wallace lived, I think, somewhere around in the sort of Thurrock area, but Layla has reimposed this on the site of the Dartford Crossing, which I think is absolute genius. To reimagine that, here you see we have a Port Wallace, and I'll move on to the next section, which is a section I love. Here you see an extract from a European road atlas, but this is exactly on the site of Ebbsfleet International Railway Station. So she's reimposed a completely alien landscape onto what should be North Kent. And we see lots of references to clay, granite, limestone. There are lots of quarries around here in reality. The railway line should come in through here off to Ebbsfleet International Station. It's a very, very clever conceit, I think. And you can just keep on looking and keep on looking, because everything tells a story. Everything that she's added to the map is positioned very precisely and has a message. So definitely worth seeing. Layla has a 1999 work called United Kingdom, currently on show in the Tate. And just to give you a bit of flavour, I've superimposed an Ordnance Survey Land Ranger map of the area around about Ebbsfleet and Grays and the Thames crossing at Dartford Bridge there. And you can see she's pretty much replicated the course of the river superbly. And have a look at the place names because they just continue to give and to entertain. So my final map is a watercolour. It's called Brexit Land 2019. It's by an artist called Stephen Walter. And we acquired this map at the Bodleian during our Talking Maps exhibition. It's a lovely story. One of the maps in the exhibition was due to be transferred to another exhibition in Singapore. And so we needed to replace it. We were going to put it up a facsimile. And Stephen approached us completely out of the blue saying, "You've got this map, would we be interested?" And it was exactly the same size and it was perfect in terms of timing. So let's have a look. There is Brexit Land 2019. It's a great big thing. It's actually on 4 big boards about that size. You can see it quartered. It's gouache ink and graphite overpainted on a specially commissioned map showing electoral districts. As Stephen says, laboriously hand painted with watercolours. It took him 4 months to do, but the story is that he looked at the Brexit referendum in 2016 and everywhere that voted to remain in Europe was flooded. So Scotland has pretty much gone. London disappeared. A lot of the main urban centres gone. Let's zoom in a bit. Stephen's take is that this work takes on a quasi-scientific nature, mirroring the presentation of scientific rigour with the politically absurd, which was caused by the Brexit impasse. So it's a large wall map of the united, or the disunited, divided United Kingdom, obsessed with Brexit. Now, what you need to know is all these red areas, say around Boston and the Wash, these were the areas which voted very heavily to leave. I think Boston was the highest leave count, something like 75.6%. You can see some blues there in South Manchester. That's been inundated. So they wanted to stay in Europe. But look carefully. Look at all the place names. Stephen has messed around with the place names. He's changed them. He's tried to give them a Brexit flavour. So here you have the South Holland district in Lincolnshire is now out Holland. Silly names of, I'm trying to think, why no Derbyshire? It's a very negative portrayal of a lot of the countryside. So he's messed around with place names. Here we've got Breckland is now Brexit Land down there in southwest Norfolk. He's had fun doing this. And to quote from Stephen, he said, "Having intensively followed the arguments and researched the subject and its statistics, I felt I had to make a work about it, even though striking a balance between my own opinions and a more objective view would be difficult." He's right. Look at this. Fantastic stuff. And we'll just move on to see another example. There is London, inundated. We head up through St Albans and north and out towards Oxford, all completely inundated. But look round here, Thurrock and Gravesend, desperate to leave Europe. And if we move across, look at Ireland, Northern Ireland. I was amazed when I saw this. The bits by the coast are very much, or ever so slightly, they're not that red, voted to leave. But look at all this area by the border, desperate to remain. It's a fascinating interpretation. The more you look at it, the more you get out of it. And likewise, the place names, some terrific stuff down there. So, in conclusion, what are we looking at? And I think we're looking at 2 very different things here. The first 2 maps which I showed you, the tapestry and the Hawkhurst state map, I think are artistic interpretations of the landscape, whereas the 2 21st century artworks really are the landscape interpreted as art. So it's not what you'll see on the ground, but it is using landscape as a way of communicating that information. So in conclusion, what is landscape? I think with the tapestry, we're looking at a visual construct. We're reinterpreting the lie of the land graphically in a very stylized form. So it looks a bit like the landscape, and the things are just roughly in the right place. It's a great depiction of the landscape. It's imaginative, it's creative. Hawkhurst, similar thing, reinterpreting the land graphically. And it almost looks like a landscape painting. It's a gorgeous looking thing, but very, very true to how the lie of the land is on the ground. And then the last two are more of an intellectual construct, so superimposing one landscape on another. How do we interpret what we see? That's the Thames. And then simply reimagining the landscape as art in the form of Brexit land. What we don't see on that map is the landscape in terms of fields and rivers particularly, but they are there. The rivers are there, the hills are there if you look carefully. So I think that's about my time up. That's all I have to say on the subject. I look forward to hearing your questions later on in the session, but thank you for your time.